he's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Duke, you got to look at Cam Boozer. 18 points. The Bruiser, I may call him. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. I know he shot the ball 1 of 4 from 3, but he's showing his ability to really be a different player than his dad. A little bit more dynamic, a little bit more athletic.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ashton Genty has been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than any player in the National Football League. Yep. So you just gave him the ball in the end zone. Do the math. How's that going to work out?
It's like what I said earlier.
He got hit behind the line of scrimmage. He got tackled in the end zone.
Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. But the thing is, Brady, you draft offensive linemen before you draft a star running back. Like they went backwards.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Hurts won't be, even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish as we put a bow on last week in the NFL and already getting ready for next week in the NFL on this Thanksgiving Day. Coming up on Thursday, we'll have a full preview of all the games coming up this week. It's also rivalry week in college football. Bill Bender will be along from Sporting News. We'll dive into the very latest there. A lot of news in baseball today, by the way, as well. Peter Apple will join us from Just Baseball, as he always does on Tuesday, for 30 minutes here on the show. That and a whole lot more on this edition of NewsWire as we capture all of the latest news, notes, and information as it pertains to sports wagering, going over the latest odds, and of course, keeping you updated on all of the sports, all of the injuries, and all of the news breakers as we do here on the show throughout each and every day for 90 minutes. Let's get started here. For those of you joining us here on the show and getting ready for the holidays, this is not a story to get you in the holiday spirit. Nonetheless, sports betting story that kind of went sideways a couple of weeks ago. Chauncey Billups, you may be familiar with him, pled not guilty to the charges of wire fraud conspiracy and money laundering conspiracy for his alleged involvement in those rigged poker games that apparently existed, that the FBI has indicted him for. If convicted, the charges carry a maximum of 20 years in prison. Billups was released on $5 million bond and also put up his home in Colorado as collateral, no longer involved in coaching, at least for the time being, until this gets resolved in the NBA. Meanwhile, Kalshi's latest move in California, they're filing a motion for an injunction for a stay and pending appeal in the Nevada federal case by 5 p.m. Eastern out of concern that Nevada may seek to commence civil or criminal enforcement proceedings against Kalshi once the court dissolves its preliminary injunction. A couple of weeks ago, a federal judge granted Kalshi a win, rejecting the idea that the tribes in California said that they were a sports betting operation, so they at least get to operate in California for the time being, and expect a lot of other states to follow suit here. They're going to be in for a battle this year and next year as well. All right, not much of a battle on Monday Night Football last night. Let's just call it what it was. The San Francisco 49ers gave the Carolina Panthers a lot of opportunities. Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions in this game, but Carolina's offense just couldn't get going. Very inconsistent all season long. Christian McCaffrey facing his former team. That was the story in the 20-9 win. 89 rushing yards, 53 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Purdy, as I mentioned, threw a touchdown to Jawan Jennings. Other than that, not very good. 3 interceptions And naturally, Carolina has just been so up and down on offense all season. It's kind of hard to figure out who exactly they are. McCaffrey after the game, big win for him, and obviously reminisced on his time with the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to playing in the league, you have to approach each week as similar as possible, stay in your routine. You can't get too far outside of what's normal for you. And so I tried to do that. And obviously when you see familiar faces, it's always good to see them before the game and after the game. But, that's a completely new team than when I was there. So it's really just business once the ball snapped.
Just a game of missed opportunities. Our defense was putting us in some great situations, with the interceptions and not coming away with points. Having an interception on one of those things really hurt us. Some basic things, a couple of penalties put us in long drives, a drop on third down. Really just comes down to fundamental execution and things that, I felt like we're moving in the right direction. But we didn't take that step today that I was looking for, collectively as a group. And the defense battled and they kept us in it, gave us some opportunities there. And then we turned it over again at the end with an opportunity to make the game close there at the end.
Not a bad year for the Panthers, but that may have sealed their fate as far as the playoffs are concerned. Also, Christian McCaffrey, by the way, leads the NFL in receptions this season. That I was not aware of. I probably should have. He's on one of my fantasy teams. This weekend, Tampa Bay Buccaneers got to be holding their breath a little bit to see if Baker Mayfield can play. His MRI showed no additional damage to that left shoulder that he hurt against the Rams, but still TBD for the weekend. No longer TBD is Joe Burrow. He's going to play on Thanksgiving Day for the Cincinnati Bengals. It's a Thursday night game. Zach Taylor said, we'll see just to be sure, but it looks like all systems go.
I anticipate him playing, but we'll continue to work through the week. I'm not going to declare that definitively. Work through the week, coming off an injury. He's done everything he could. He put himself in a position to do his best to play yesterday. And we'll continue with that mindset, but he looks like he's in good shape right now to be ready to go. I mean, really, last week it just fell because it was easier for us to handle, because Joe Flacco has been limited in practice, and so his schedule had been conducive to Burrow coming in there and taking all the snaps. So it didn't throw anything off kilter because that had been our routine previously. He just took a bunch of reps that Jake Browning had been taking when Flacco was out. So from that perspective, it worked out well. We were able to balance that without disrupting anything, and now you'll go into these walkthrough reps, which is really what we're doing the next 2 days. So it's nothing physical, walkthrough mental reps and getting everybody ready to go play.
The Browns have rewarded Shedeur Sanders with another start coming up for the Browns this Sunday. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Vikings may have to turn to their third-string quarterback Max Brosmer coming up on Sunday, as J.J. McCarthy reported issues on the flight back from Minnesota. He's in concussion protocol. Here's the latest from head coach Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, no, we, obviously with the independent, a couple independents and the medical staff and everything, there was not one particular, we're, looking into it as I know we all will. It had to be late, based upon kind of how the game went. But no, there wasn't one where I think even JJ can pinpoint as of right now.
I know you'll have to go through the week kind of figuring out how things go for JJ, but do you go in assuming Max Brosmer gets ready to start?
Yeah, I think it's probably too early to tell that, Ben. As far as, with the quarterbacks not really taking contact in practice in the different phases of the protocol, I think we got to just take it a day at a time.
One of the big stories of the week, of course. We'll see who starts there. All right, let's get to college basketball. Tough start of the season for St. John's. They lose to Iowa State last night, 83-82. Iowa State 2.5-point favorites. Joshua Jefferson had 17 points and 8 assists. It was St. John's having the ball late, not being able to come through on the final shot. So Rick Pitino naturally not happy with the outcome.
Well, it was another tough game for us. You play this type of schedule, you're going to be in tough games. The effort was great. The play was terrific. We just, with the game on the line, we just didn't come up with the rebounds necessary to put the other team away, but that's a credit to their incredible crashing of the offensive glass. So we take the loss because we couldn't come up with the rebounds. Unfortunate that we lost another good game.
Gonzaga takes care of business against Alabama, 95-85, and Seton Hall had the upset of the night. They beat number 23 NC State 85-74. in the Maui Invitational. Don't look now, but the hottest team in the NBA remains the Detroit Pistons. How about this? 13 straight wins as they beat the Indiana Pacers by a final of 122-117. That's a franchise record for Detroit with all of those championships and winning. How about that? Cade Cunningham, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. And JB Bickerstaff seemingly not satisfied enough with 13 wins in a row.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would like for us to be greedier. I felt like in that fourth quarter and even in the third quarter, we let our guard down defensively. We allowed them to make a run. And, again, I'll keep saying it. Like, our defense is our identity. That's when we're at our best. In that second half, we weren't great defensively. And that's the mindset we have to have. Like, the mindset has to be, we can't ever feel full or satisfied because, every team you play, they've got talent, they've got guys, they've got champions over there. So we got to do a better job, just sticking with it and being who we are, being greedy for 48 minutes.
Guess who got another triple-double in the NBA? I'll give you a hint. You're looking at him right there, and it's not me. Nikola Jokic had 17 points, 16 assists, 10 rebounds. Does this every night already. 125-115. Nuggets beat the Grizzlies. The Knicks beat the Nets 113-100. Karl Anthony Towns had 37 points, and the Nets are chasing down the number one overall lottery pick, probably. And by the way, the Heat has won 5 games in a row. They beat the Dallas Mavericks 106-102. Tyler Hero had 24 points in his season debut. Also a trade in Major League Baseball. Sonny Gray of the St. Louis Cardinals has been traded to the Boston Red Sox for Richard Fitz and another prospect as well. Big story from this. Cardinals are going to send $20 million as part of the deal to the Boston Red Sox. Eight 3-minute rounds. The gloves are 10 ounces. And Anthony Joshua weighs like 250 pounds. So I'm not really sure how this is going to end up happening. But this is one of those. Normally, I don't give credit to the Paul brothers. And, I give them credit for being great on social media and creating a lot of buzz for the sport. I give him credit for getting in the round with Anthony Joshua. This is not like a Mike Tyson fight when Tyson's 60 years old.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Hurts won't be even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Let's take a look at a couple of narratives here and play a good game of fade or not fade. And first up, well, the idea that the Chiefs are going to put it all together and win the AFC West, well, that's absolutely gone. Absolute fade from this point on, Donnie, with the Chiefs. Their 10-year reign is over. It's done with.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's bring in Bill Bender from Sporting News as we got rankings set to come out tonight, and the college football landscape in terms of the playoff gets a lot clearer after this week. Bill, great to have you back here on the show, and certainly I think at least as we begin for Oregon, this was a game they had to have to stay in the mix for the college football playoff this weekend, and boy, did they come through. 42-27, and Dante Moore, who's had a really nice season for them, threw 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And it was good, I think, from Oregon and Dan Lanning's perspective to see this kind of offense being put up. I know, generally speaking, in years past, they would do this all the time. Hasn't been as simple this season, but a huge win for them to stay in the mix.
Yeah, I don't know if Ducks sleep. Like, I was literally thinking about that, but we are sleeping on Oregon. So we are sleeping on the Ducks. I think they're a really good football team. I'm not trying to be cute, but they ran all over the Trojans, 179 rushing yards. The Trojans couldn't run the ball, 52 rushing yards for them. I thought Dante Moore played well. And now they're positioned in the top 5, where I do think Oregon will get by Washington this weekend and set themselves up to have a first-round home game at Autzen Stadium. And what a moment that will be. And on top of all that, I think Oregon's a dangerous playoff team. So maybe losing to Indiana caused all of us to fall asleep on them, but they're still a really good football team.
Definitely so. And for USC, facing Dante Moore seemingly put an end to their campaign. Lincoln Riley 34-17 through 51 games, same record as Clay Helton before him, although I think most people feel USC headed in the right direction, just going to play in a nice bowl game this year, just not in the college football playoff. Oklahoma appears to be headed in that direction. I don't know what happened to Missouri, Bill, this weekend, 17-6. Sooners have been playing great defense all season, but I mean, this was the worst offensive output for the Tigers all year long. And John Mateer didn't really need to do much. He had 2 touchdowns, 18 carries, 60 yards. Sooners are going to win on the strength of their defense, but I would assume at some point, even though they've beaten Alabama and now Missouri back-to-back, they're going to have to score a few touchdowns to win some of these bigger games.
Yeah, they're going to need Mateer to open it up a little bit when they get to the playoff. But if they beat LSU, that gets them to 10 wins. That gets Brent Venables in the college football playoff. It likely gets Oklahoma a home game. And you said it. What I like most about them is a defense that's allowed just 14 points per game. That's the best in this SEC grinder of a schedule. If you'd have told me at the beginning of the season that Oklahoma was going to go through that schedule and play all of those good teams and allow 14 points per game, I wouldn't have believed it. And that Michigan non-conference victory matters. That's what's going to really push them into the playoff if there is a pile-up of 2 lost teams here in a couple weeks.
Meanwhile, the Fighting Irish game was over as soon as they hiked the ball here, Bill. They scored a couple touchdowns on defense to start, and then Jeremiah Love did the rest. 70-7. Yes, that's true. That was the final. 70-7 as Notre Dame is right on the edge of the college football playoff. They probably have to win just to secure that spot. The story has been Love and his ascension here in the Heisman Trophy, Bill. He's been fantastic. He's, to me, the best running back coming out of college since maybe Saquon Barkley at Penn State. 8 carries, 171 yards, 3 touchdowns. Had the game been a little closer, he would have rushed for 300 yards. And now in the Heisman Trophy, don't look now, but he's only 5-1 to win the Heisman. I mean, Bill, there's like 1 game left, 2 games left, and this could really go right down to the wire here. Fernando Mendoza is the favorite, but it's not overwhelming at -135. Generally, Bill, you get to this point in November, you see somebody -200, 250, etc. It just shows you how great Love has been.
The path for him is really interesting, Craig. I mean, he does rank 3rd in the nation in rushing yards and TDs, and that's great. But what I always look at is he averages 7.1 yards per carry. So 7 yards every time he touches the ball, which is incredible for a running back. I think your comparison to Barkley's spot on with his game-breaking ability. Now, how does he win the Heisman when, 1, they play Stanford at 10:30 at night this Saturday on rivalry week, so he has to have the monster game there and hope a lot of people are up. And then 2, he needs the Big Ten championship game to be Indiana, Ohio State to be ugly. And Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza maybe just have middling games in a tough defensive struggle. And if that happens, and you believe that Jeremiah Love is the best player in the country, which I'm starting to believe that too, then he would have a chance to win the Heisman Trophy for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think he has a shot, definitely. I'm going to have a huge game against Stanford, a team that's not very good, by the way, on Saturday night as well. All right, so let's take a look at Bill's projections here as the college football playoff rankings and standings will come out later today. Easiest top 4 you'll ever find here. Ohio State, Texas A&M, Indiana, and Georgia, if all things hold. Lock this up. I think that's the way it's going to be. Then things get a little interesting. So, Bill, we have Texas Tech, Tulane. We know how Tulane's path is clear at this point to get in. Same could be said for the ACC and Virginia. A little bit more complicated, but Virginia's there as your 11th seed. Then we have Mississippi taking on Alabama, and the committee would love to have Alabama in one way or the other. Notre Dame would take on Oklahoma as the 8-9 seed. And there's some teams on the outside looking in that still have a shot, by the way. SMU, Miami being one of those. Georgia Tech, I think they blew their shot this past week. And certainly BYU, I think, still possibly in the mix. So can't rule it out, but I feel like out of these 12, I feel like we know 10 of them. I think 10 are pretty secure.
Yeah, and I don't know that the group of 5 is secure because any one of those American Conference teams could win it. And I know I have Virginia on there because it's an easier path this week, but I will not be surprised in the least if either SMU wins the ACC by beating Cal and then being favored against Virginia in the ACC championship game if it comes to that, or if the Canes find a way through some more chaos in this conference, which would be on brand for Miami to find their way back to the ACC championship game, win the conference, eliminate the Notre Dame argument, and maybe we can just have those two do a rematch and do a redo and settle the argument that way on the field again. But a lot of scenarios in the ACC, too many to count, and don't rule out, like I said, Miami Pitt winner getting into that ACC championship game.
Yeah, obviously Miami has to beat Pitt, but where do you stand on that whole thing with Miami and Notre Dame? I mean, living here in South Florida, this is all I'm hearing, that if both teams have 2 losses, that Miami deserves it over Notre Dame. It's a very compelling argument because they have the head-to-head win, but I think Notre Dame's probably the better team now. I don't know. What do you think?
That's the argument, that Notre Dame's the better team now, is dominated through the ACC schedule, and Jeremiah Love. I just don't see them leaving a 10-2 Irish team out of the playoff, not the way that they've played over the last 2 months.
All right, Bill. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks again for coming on. We'll see you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving, Craig. Appreciate you.
All right, we'll be right back. Minute rounds. The gloves are 10 ounces, and Anthony Joshua weighs like 250 pounds, so I'm not really sure how this is going to end up happening, but this is one of those. Normally I don't give credit to the Paul brothers, and I give them credit for being great on social media and creating a lot of buzz for the sport. I give him credit for getting in the round with Anthony Joshua. This is not like a Mike Tyson fight when Tyson's 60 years old.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Hurts won't be even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Let's take a look at a couple of narratives here and play a good game of fade or not fade. And first up, well, the idea that the Chiefs are going to put it all together and win the AFC West, well, that's absolutely gone. Absolute fade from this point on, Donnie, with the Chiefs. Their 10-year reign is over. It's done with.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Seems like there's only one team that could keep Ohio State from going undefeated and maybe even winning the national championship. That would be Michigan, the team they face off with this week. We'll have a preview of that game. Also, rivalry week goes to Jordan Hare as Alabama takes on Auburn. Oregon battles Washington. Let's get a preview of these 3 games in the SportsGrid Sound Off. Well, the Buckeyes are big favorites this week at Ann Arbor, and certainly Michigan, Ohio State, they've had their fair share of back and forth in the series, mostly dominated by Ohio State in recent years. And then, of course, Jim Harbaugh finally won at Michigan before he took the job with the Los Angeles Chargers. But now it's Sharon Moore's squad going into Ann Arbor this week. We would expect a lot of fans to show up, over 100,000 to watch this game. It is the game of the week usually in college football. And the head coach Moore expects the fans to be ready to roar.
Be the loudest, most ravenous, craziest, energetic environment that we've had in Michigan Stadium ever. That's what we want it to be. The loudest place it's ever been. I don't know what the decimals have been or what they could be, but we need them to reach peak on Saturday. I mean, I just think we're just going to go prepare for the game. I don't know what really outside the building, none of that really matters. What people think, what people say doesn't matter. What matters is how we prepare and how we get ready for this game mentally, and that's it. So I don't know what the mental edge piece. I just know that we're going to just go prepare to go win the game. Yeah, it's potent, man. It's one of the best in the country. Obviously, the best team in the country. The receivers are elite. Jeremiah is elite. Carnell Tate is elite. They got Brandon Ennis. He's elite. Tight end Max Clare is a really good player as well, and quarterback is elite. They've got elite players everywhere on the field from a skill position standpoint. Running back's really good. O-line's good. So it's a challenge I know our defense is ready to go take on.
Meanwhile, Saturday night, will things go sideways in Alabama as the Crimson Tide take on the Tigers? This is usually a fun game as well, although Auburn, of course, looking for their next head coach. Here is Kalen DeBoer on the matchup, what could be on Saturday night, and potentially Alabama with a win heading closer to the college football playoff.
Yeah, rivalry game, amazing environment. We've played in amazing environments, throughout the year on the road at night. I get it. I mean, you never want to, we understand it's going to be a great experience there, and it'll be, one where we're facing a team that wants to knock us off of our goals and our hopes and all of that. So but you just really got to simplify it down, and you got to prepare for the noise, prepare for the emotions that come, and that's what our season has done for us. We've been through a lot of that, and again, there'll be new challenges that present themselves in the game, and a lot of it will be again new matchup. Guys that have different people in front of them, strengths and weaknesses of the opponent, every single week change. And so we're just going to prepare our best, focus on what we do, because that's what we've done all season long, to go out there and be our best on Saturday.
And finally, when Oregon visits Washington on Saturday afternoon, it should be a fantastic environment at Husky Stadium as well. Dan Lanning's team came up big last week against USC, talks about the opportunity to do it in back-to-back weeks, this time against Washington.
It'll be a lot of the same messaging from that standpoint of go out there and do your job is the best way you can control. And I know that our guys are going to be a high level of emotion in this game. They're going to have that. But it's definitely an important rivalry to us. This game means a lot. It's probably the number one question I get asked when I'm out on the road with donors and support groups and talking about our university is about this game. It's one that I struggled with early on when I was here, to start. They had some success against us, so it means a lot to me. It's one that I want to have success in, and they're well coached. I mean, Jed does a good job. They have good players. They've done a really good job in talent evaluation. They have their quarterbacks playing as well as anybody right now. Got good wideouts, got good back. I know they've been a little banged up. It sounds like they're getting healthy, similar to us. We've been banged up. So ultimately, though, you see a complete team, and then two fan bases that don't like each other, which makes it fun.
And tomorrow's show, Adam Kaufman will be in for me. We'll hear from the opponents' coaches as we preview all the big games in college football coming up this weekend. Also, a programming reminder, as I mentioned, we're back on the air tomorrow here on NewsWire, but there will be no NewsWire on Thursday and Friday of this week, with all of the pro football on Thursday and live college football action, in addition to the Black Friday game coming up on Friday. So NewsWire after tomorrow will be back on Monday, and I'll be back with you for the next edition live next week on NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Coming up next, it's fantasy football time once again. Plenty of games on Thursday and Friday this week. Time to get ahead of it. We'll bring in Joe Pisapia after the break. Don't go away.
close to $1 million in volume being traded right now on the Offensive Player of the Year. If you did put $100 down on Jonathan Taylor, that would pay back $143, so a 43% increase on your money that you had. There are a lot of long shots in here, but it doesn't feel like those would be good bets. Like, hey, I'm going to put it on Justin Herbert. Well, yeah, if Justin Herbert wins it, Joe, a $100 wager would pay back $10,000. They even have a market for if you want to bet Malik Neighbors.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They loved Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
What are those things called?
A shooting star.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with that one. Like, it just burns up quick. And you love it while you can see it, and bing, it's gone in the blink of an eye.
Right.
That's my fear for Cam Scatterby.
Yeah, and that's not a big deal, but I will say it's weird, and it seems like he really enjoys that attention, which is all fine because he's a young guy.
Yeah.
But possibly dangerous in a city like New York.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Big week in fantasy football. For those of you, it could be make or break. It's Thanksgiving Day and night. We have 3 games Thursday, 1 game on Friday. So by the time you get to the weekend, you can know your fate and your opponent's fate as well. Let's bring in Joe Pisapia from, of course, SportsGrid and Fantasy Pros and Fantasy Black Book as well. Joe, great to have you here on the show. Happy Thanksgiving. And here we go, man. A lot of fun usually on Thanksgiving Day. A lot of players that people are going to be using. I don't see a dud on the schedule, at least to start with. So this is going to be a very active week.
A tremendous slate of games. In fact, I would say in recent memory, it's the best slate of Thanksgiving games we've ever had in theory, which means I'm sure they'll all be super boring and they will underperform, right? That's exactly what we're thinking. But that Kansas City-Dallas game means a lot to both of those teams right now. That's going to be a very hot game right in the middle. You get the Joe Burrow return at night, and you get that old rivalry, right? A game that really matters is these two teams in the NFC North, the Lions and the Packers, are jockeying for position in that division behind the Chicago Bears, if you can believe it right now. So a really interesting slate for sure. And then, of course, Black Friday game too, Eagles and Chicago Bears, 2 8-3 teams, a very good holiday slate.
Definitely so. Can't wait to get through them all. All right, so there's no bye weeks this week. Everybody is playing, which does create the issue, at least for the best player in fantasy this season. Christian McCaffrey is going to have a bye week next week, which really stinks for a lot of people there. But this past week, we had the top, I think, performance of anybody in fantasy football this season, if I'm not mistaken. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 attempts, 219 yards, 3 total touchdowns, and also 11 receptions, number 1 overall. Speaking of number 1 overall, Joe, Jackson Smith and Jigba, his pace is for 2,000 yards. He had a huge week, and then the Cowboys came back to beat the Eagles as well. So highlight the winners for me here.
Well, certainly Jahmyr Gibbs, let's start there. Now, the amazing performance by Jahmyr Gibbs, an underwhelming performance by the Giants defense too. Finally, the coordinator got fired. I mean, you blow so many fourth quarter leads. It's unbelievable. But how he breaks free in that overtime without even a hand on him is beyond me. I don't understand that, but great job by Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, it's a short week coming back from that monstrous performance too. I don't have a lot of questions of how he's going to perform. Obviously, you're not taking him out of your lineup, but I think your expectations should still be pretty high regardless of the fact it's a quick turnaround because it's such an important in-division game. It's all hands on deck here as the Lions, again, are fighting for spot there. Right now, everybody is behind Chicago. And JSN, you mentioned it. We were having that conversation during the week already. Is JSN the number 1 overall pick next year? And it's a conversation we have to have. You look at the amount of volume he has, the way the funnel of targets goes towards him. next year, that is incredibly enticing because sure, you have Jamar Chase. We'll see what the Vikings do at quarterback next year. Justin Jefferson back on that mix. Jonathan Taylor, let's see how his carry volume carries over year. But JSN, the fact that he is the guy and all of the targets go to him and nobody seems to have an answer for it right now, that is incredibly tempting to anoint him as at least a top 3 pick, maybe even consideration for number 1 overall.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he could be the number 1 overall pick. I think McCaffrey could capture that again. Maybe Jonathan Taylor based on the end of the season, but certainly Jackson Smith-Njigba has been fantastic this year. All right, so those are the winners this week. Now let's go to the other side of the coin, which unfortunately is the Minnesota Vikings at this point. You know, I mean, how do you even start Justin Jefferson at this point? Addison, I guess he got a bench now. He gets nothing, but J.J. McCarthy has just been awful for the Vikings, that people are calling for Max Brosmer to start this week. Baker Mayfield got hurt. All of a sudden, the Bucs offense has gone downhill. And speaking of which, the Raiders, oh my gosh, Joe, they're playing like the worst team in the NFL, and it's not close.
No, look, we could start with the Raiders. They fired their offensive coordinator finally, Chip Kelly, which I did not realize this until he got fired, that he was the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. And what a joke that has been on the Las Vegas Raiders. So we'll see what happens to them offensively. They've got to do a better job of protecting Geno Smith. And also, I don't think the secret sauce is Geno Smith throwing the ball 40 times in a game. Like, I don't think that's what you want to look for either. J.J. McCarthy's a tough one because I think a lot of us, you know, if you like football, you like the energy that J.J. McCarthy brings. But the fact that he was a younger quarterback who missed significant development time, missed an entire year of football, and this isn't, you know, him trying to figure things out here in September and October at the beginning of a season. He's trying to figure things out here after another injury in the middle of a season, in the heat of the moment. And it's just a really bad set of circumstances and timing. And I would be shocked, Craig, if we go into next year with him as the only quarterback or the starting quarterback, at least a veteran to compete. I could see a Jameis Winston. I could even see a Jacoby Brissett, who's played incredibly well. Could you imagine Brissett, what he's done there with some of those weapons in Arizona, going there with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison? I mean, that could be a really spectacular fit. He is going to end up somewhere, considering how well he's played down the stretch. So McCarthy, unfortunately, I think is going to be a guy that's going to have to sit back and let somebody else play next year. Otherwise, the Vikings are going to be in a complete rebuild mode, and I don't think they want to be there. And then last but not least, that's Baker Mayfield injury with the shoulder. We've been here before with that other non-throwing shoulder. It's going to have a huge effect here, his health. We're going to monitor it the rest of the week, but still, it seems like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just can't get outside of the injury bug. They get Bucky Irving returning, Godwin returning, and now Baker Mayfield hurt. They just can't seem to catch a break, and Mike Evans still on the shelf.
Yeah, they were playing great football early in the year. That's sort of gone the other way. Okay, it's a little bit of a quiet week, I think, in fantasy for the waiver wire, too, especially when you consider, yes, Joe Burrow is back, and so some folks will jump on Andre Iosivas of the Bengals. But, you know, generally speaking, Joe, the way that this works is I think some people love the fact that they'll have a guy on Thanksgiving. There are other people who'll be like, oh, I'll just wait till Sunday and have somebody better for the matchup. But he's been the hot pickup at wide receiver because T. Higgins is not going to play. You know, the name that's interesting to me, and I know the Saints are horrendous, but Devin Neal, I mean, I don't know. I could see the Saints just not playing Alvin Kamara the rest of the year, and I believe New Orleans plays Miami this week, so it's not a horrendous matchup there. I would expect him to get picked up as well. It's rare, Joe, at this stage of the game that any starting running back could potentially be available, so I would assume Neal's number would go up before the end of the week.
It would. I mean, he wouldn't be the only guy getting work there, but Miami's actual defense against the run has been better in the last couple of weeks very quietly. So it's not the cakewalk that it was in the first 6-7 weeks of the season. However, I do agree with you, Devin Neal. If we have Alvin Kamara, you have to add him this week. There's no doubt about that. And he is a guy that has some upside. And of course, going to get a lot of volume with that rookie quarterback, Tyler Shough, under center. Jaden Higgins, certainly, I think, appealing as well. You've seen him start to work into this offense more. Davis Mills has made the most out of that time with Jaden Higgins. He's just rostered in 23% of leagues. He looked good last Thursday against Buffalo, had a touchdown in that game. Yoshi Voss is in play, as you mentioned, as well, because of the T. Higgins injury. But again, I think a lot of us have big fat question marks on whether or not, you know, Joe Burrow's really ready to come back. I know the season's hanging on by a thread. They have a 1% chance to make the playoffs. But, you know, that's like telling Joe Burrow in Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance, right? That's what Joe Burrow hears. And then the last guy, too, that I would not overlook on this list is John Mechie. Now, back in the day, I know Craig is old enough, and so am I, to remember Alabama John Mechie, who was the guy that moved the chains for teams that went to the national championship. Jameson Williams was the guy that took the top off the defense. He was the big play guy, but the receiver who was that guy who was just getting the volume was John Mechie. Came into the league with a terrible Houston Texans team, then got diagnosed with cancer, then a long comeback. A few teams later, here he is. And now he's getting an opportunity with Tyrod Taylor, and he's looked good these last couple weeks. So Tyler Lockett and I think that John Mechie are two guys that if you're in deeper leagues, you mentioned there's no buy, so everybody's playing. So a lot of people just kind of ignore guys on the waiver wire. Don't, because Week 14 is going to have a lot of teams on the bye again, a lot of important players, especially at receiver. So go ahead and get ahead of that curve this week. Don't be lazy about it, as we're getting very, very close to the fantasy playoffs starting.
Let me go back real quick to Arizona. You mentioned it maybe for dynasty leagues too. I mean, Joe, as somebody like yourself who watched Brissett play with New England, do you really believe what you're seeing here, that he I mean, he's never done what he's doing right now with Arizona. I know Geno Smith had never did what he did also when he came, to Seattle. But I sort of feel like, again, no disrespect, that there's some fool's gold here. Like, I don't know. I mean, he was with Miami and played when Tua was out. He did nothing at all the whole time he was there.
But do you remember I believe they were 5-3 or 6-2 when he was the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns a few years ago, played very well for them. And then Deshaun Watson came back and took over. So Brissett's had some moments. You can't compare anybody having good work with that Gerard Mayo team of last year. It was a complete disaster for the Patriots offense. So I think Brissett is at least showing, hey, I'm a viable competitor for a job next year.
Yeah, should be. Michael Wilson thanks him, by the way, for playing. There's no doubt about that. All right, Joe, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, by the way. We'll see you next week.
Close to $1 million in volume being traded right now in the Offensive Player of the Year. If you did put $100 down on Jonathan Taylor, that would pay back $143, so a 43% increase on your money that you had. There are a lot of long shots in here, but it doesn't feel like those would be good bets. Like, hey, I'm going to put it on Justin Herbert. Well, yeah, if Justin Herbert wins it, Joe, a $100 wager would pay back $10,000. They even have a market for if you want to bet Malik Neighbors.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
What are those things called?
A shooting star.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with that one. Like, it just burns up quick, and you love it while you can see it, and bing, it's gone in the blink of an eye.
Right.
That's my fear for Cam Scatterby.
Yeah, and that's not a big deal, but I will say it's weird, and it seems like he really enjoys that attention, which is all fine because he's a young guy, but possibly dangerous in a city like New York.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
The future of the prediction markets, I think, at least for now, may be in the hands of the federal courts. But the good news for those who support prediction markets is that these court battles may last for another 2 to 3 years before we get clarity around the law. And nominee Seelig was handpicked by Donald Trump, not because he was neutral on prediction markets, but because he would do nothing to slow it down.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Last time we caught up with Danny Burke, it was the end of the baseball season, and now here he is joining us for what is past the halfway mark in the NFL season. In fact, several weeks still left. This is not the end, and Danny, it's only the beginning for people who love Thanksgiving Day football, because here we go, coming up on Thursday, and some folks may not or have been paying attention to some of these games, but we can all agree that Thanksgiving Day is the most watched day of football all season long. And thanks for coming on the show. It's great to catch up with you. The division still up for grabs, and let's not discount the Chicago Bears, who, by the way, are at the top, even though their odds are not close to where the Packers and Lions are. Odds makers are telling us the winner of this game on Thursday wins the division. Lions are 2.5-point favorites at home against the Green Bay Packers. This one went the way of the Lions the first time out. Detroit has been a fantastic home team, although their defense is just seemingly falling apart, especially last week against the Giants. This is such a short line, Danny, for Detroit at home. Are they going to be able to pull this one off this week? I know Goff usually plays well at home too, but my confidence is a little shaken watching that defense last week.
Yeah, and Craig, happy to be here once again, and happy Thanksgiving to you and yours and everybody out there listening. I felt the same way. I see a little bit of an edge here with Detroit at -2 in the hook. Now, the issue is it is a division game, short week, so you're not really going to see a big gap, especially with two respected teams such as this, although I'm still not necessarily a believer in this Green Bay team to make a deep run. I know when you look at the deeper metrics, Jordan Love's numbers are still putting him up as one of the top quarterbacks, but come on, I mean, if you're watching these games, we've seen time and time again, he is prone to mistakes, and the play calling has been suspect from Matt LaFleur, who I do think is a great coach, but there's just been these flaws out of Green Bay. Now, on the other side, Detroit's defense is top half in the league, but yeah, last week was an absolute disaster. With this number being under the key number of 3, I would lean toward Detroit. I think they win this one about 27-24 is where I have it, but I see a bit more value in the total going over, and that's a bet that I made. Over 48.5 at -115 is a number that I found available. You could still get it at like 49.5. Clearly, I think it's going over both. I mean, they're both great in red zone offense. They're top 7 defensively. They're 19th or worse are both of these defenses. So I think it's going to be a shootout. We're going to see a similar offense to Green Bay in week 1 against Detroit, except this time the Lions can also match them on their offensive side. So yeah, I think we're going to see some points here in this NFC North battle to kick things off.
All 3 games on Thursday with very high totals in the NFL. So hopefully we will get exciting games. That would also include the Dallas Cowboys, who basically have played almost over to every total this season in the National Football League when they play. But last week, of course, a little bit on the lower side, 24-21. Odds makers are telling us this week it's going to be a shootout. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes you get lost in the sun a little bit in Dallas when they open up that stadium. The Chiefs are 3-point favorites this week, total 51.5. Imagine me giving you this line, look ahead, Danny, back in September. You would have said, what, Chiefs -6, 6.5, 7, 7.5. But credit to the Cowboys, man. They stayed alive in it. They're relevant on Thanksgiving Day. But I think they got to have this one, Danny, if they want to make the playoffs. They can't afford another loss.
Yeah, this game is absolutely fascinating because you have two of these teams just coming off miraculous, wild wins the previous week. Kansas City was down, 20-9 heading into the fourth quarter. And then obviously Dallas on the other side, down 3 scores, came back against their division foe and overcame the Philadelphia Eagles. So you always want to be careful with recency bias in the NFL. You want to avoid it, but this is such a unique situation to where both of these teams had emotional come-from-behind victories in must-win spots, and it's still essentially a must-win for both of these clubs. Metrically speaking, Kansas City is still the better team because they get the edge defensively. But what kind of offensive output are you going to get from Patrick Mahomes and company? Because the red zone offense has struggled as of late, and that's a big reason why they dug themselves in a hole against Indianapolis last week. Now, the line's kind of moved down from 3.5 to 3. At 3, it's hard not to look toward KC, but I'm probably going to look to in-game wager on this and see what the tempo of both teams look like and see how both defenses are matching up against each other. The bet that I did make, though, Craig, is a prop. I'm taking Kareem Hunt to score a touchdown plus 175. Anytime score, the best number I see available. Pacheco may be back, but Kareem is absolutely dominating the red zone share. 28 attempts to Pacheco's 12 this season, and I know Isaiah's missed some games, but even in those games, you still see a heavy dose of Kareem in the red zone. He's scored in 4 consecutive games. Dallas has one of the worst run defenses. If you can't get anything going through the air, he's the next best reliable option. So I think that's a good angle to look at for Hunt to score any time in this game.
Yeah, he was a big factor this past week. I know that they said that Isaiah Pacheco could play in this game, but how do you go away from Hunt? I don't know. Also, George Pickens. How do they go away from him in Dallas? What a great trade that turned out to be. Over 1,000 yards on the season. And with CeeDee Lamb seemingly have some yips with catching the ball, I don't know any other explanation I could give you. Pickens has been the man, and Dak Prescott about to cross the 3,000-yard passing mark again. Wow, what a career he has had. Okay, so Saturday night, generally speaking, if you just looked at the records of these two teams, you would say this is the dud on the board. But no, we get Joe Burrow back on Saturday night. The Ravens are 7.5-point favorites on FanDuel right now, total of 51.5. I would guess by the time Saturday comes, you're not going to get this hook with the Bengals because people love betting those dogs on Thanksgiving. And the total's 51.5 here. I really don't know what to expect, honestly, Danny, from Burrow. I feel like they made the right choice sitting him this past week. Jamar Chase, getting him back is huge for Burrow here. But, quite frankly, Cincinnati's not a good team. So the temptation maybe to take the dog is at the wrong side this weekend.
Well, first, to your point about the spread, yeah, you're right. I mean, you're already seeing this thing tick down from 7.5 to 7, and I think that's probably where it will remain. I believe some people look at this Baltimore team and are still not fully convinced on the defensive front. I mean, you saw them struggle a little bit with the Jets last week, and there have been circumstances in the past where they've just been very flawed. And you're going against his familiar opponent. And yes, Joe Burrow coming back is nice, but Joe Flacco at this point, if he was healthy, I don't think with Burrow just coming out of the mix, coming out of nowhere is going to make that much of a difference since he's just jumping into this. He'll still be great. Don't get me wrong. But, they have so many weapons where they should be able to keep up regardless. I think at 7, you got to look toward taking the points with the Bengals, and Burrow playing makes sense because they're not technically eliminated from the playoffs. But if they were, I don't see a reason why you'd rush him back. But yeah, this should be another high scoring affair, and it may be that public dog. You're right, Craig, but I find it hard to trust Baltimore to just really pull away in this spot.
Great games, Danny, coming up. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire.
Likewise, Craig. Appreciate it.
We'll wrap up the first hour of the show next.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They loved Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Duke, you got to look at Cam Boozer. 18 points. The Bruiser, I may call him. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. I know he shot the ball 1 of 4 from 3, but he's showing his ability to really be a different player than his dad. A little bit more dynamic, a little bit more athletic.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ashton Genty has been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than any player in the National Football League. Yep. So you just gave him the ball in the end zone. Do the math. How's that going to work out?
It's like what I
He
said earlier.
got hit behind the line of scrimmage. He got tackled in the end zone.
Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. But the thing is, Brady, you draft offensive linemen before you draft a star running back. Like they went backwards.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Hurts won't be even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. So this week is the Egg Bowl between Mississippi and Mississippi State. And apparently after that game, and maybe even right after that game, we'll find out where Lane Kiffin is going to be coaching in the future. Will it be back at Mississippi? Will it be at LSU? Will it be at the University of Florida? Will it be in the NFL? I mean, who knows? Lane Kiffin has not said, but school wants to know before the college football playoff, and that does make some sense. So we'll get the very latest on Kiffin. Let's also not forget, as I mentioned, LSU and Florida and Auburn and several other schools are still looking for head coaches. In fact, the only team that's really locked in their next head coach is Virginia Tech with James Franklin. Penn State still in a similar position as well. Let's check in with our friends at Front Office Sports as they have the very latest on the head coaching carousel and what it means for some of the coaches who could be looking for new destinations, and in places like Florida State, a coach who will be staying next season.
Yeah, I think everybody at this point, among that trio of Ole Miss, LSU, and Florida, they're all willing to make Lane Kiffin the highest paid coach in college football. And that just means beating Kirby Smart's salary at Georgia right now, which is a little over $13 million. Of course, if Kiffin gets that number, maybe Georgia extends Kirby Smart again and pops Kiffin in that range. But yes, they're willing to make some big offers, maybe even up to $15 million for Lane Kiffin. And so at this point, it doesn't really seem like him that the decision comes down to this school can pay me more, but maybe it's more so, hey, what are my resources at any given school around NIL or revenue sharing money or facilities or other kind of capital for other coaching staff hires, anything, everything. Where do you want to live? Do you want to live in Gainesville, Baton Rouge, Ole Miss? There's those are kind of the factors. I don't think his salary is a big factor at this point because everybody is willing to pay him.
It also feels like all three of these schools are putting all their eggs in one basket to get him, and we're not really hearing a lot about who might be a backup option. If he stays at Ole Miss, where does LSU go? And same thing with Ole Miss. What do they do if he leaves? Like, who is even in talks of contention here?
Yeah, how crazy would that be if Lane Kiffin comes up on Saturday, they win the Egg Bowl, they're heading into the college football playoff, and he says, hey, guess what? I'm staying here. He'd really be leaving Florida and LSU both hanging out to dry there. But hey, that's certainly a possibility at this point. We really don't know. There's a lot of names, especially in the group of five that are some head coaches there that those teams would love to keep, but are probably going to get better jobs, whether that's Tulane's John Sumrall or Eric Norris from North Texas, who's having a really nice season. So expect those coaches to probably get some Power 4 jobs. I don't know if it's going to be one of those SEC jobs. I mean, even look within the SEC. Clark Lee down at Vanderbilt, he's a big name. They would love to keep him there in Nashville, but already 4 SEC teams have fired their head coaches mid-season. That's 25% of the conference. If Lane Kiffin moves on from Ole Miss, that's a 5th out of 16 SEC teams looking for a new head coach, and then we'll see what else happens around the league.
So one of these 3 teams is right now in the conversation for the college football playoff. The other 2 are not. Is there one of these jobs that's probably more attractive than the other, and is that maybe Ole Miss?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can certainly make an argument for Ole Miss, especially with the equity that Lane Kiffin has built up there in Oxford, right? He got there, and they were not what they are now. He's really built them up into a national contender. Obviously, the age of NIL and revenue sharing has helped that along. Now, I think a lot of people will probably still tell you LSU is a more premier job than Ole Miss when it just comes to all the resources of college football, donors, boosters, recruiting, in-state Louisiana versus Mississippi. But things have become so national now in college football that it's not just about the state that you're in and who you can recruit there, because you can pay to get a player from California, from Florida, from wherever. All the good schools are doing that. So I think LSU is probably what the natural reaction. You would say that's the better job, and even Florida has traditionally been better than Ole Miss. But to your point, Baker, Ole Miss and really any school can be a top dog now these days.
Let's switch gears to a school that isn't going to be looking for a new head coach, and that's Florida State. There has been a lot of talk throughout the year because of the Seminoles' sort of rough year so far that maybe Mike Norvell wouldn't stay at the program. He did have about a $58 million buyout. Florida State announced this last weekend, David. He's going to stay at Florida State. Why did they decide to keep him, and was his buyout one of the reasons for that?
I think it certainly probably was a factor, but they have some deep pockets there at Florida State too. So you look at what happened with James Franklin in Penn State. A lot of these big Power 4 traditional powerhouses are not scared to make a move. And then, Mike Norvell's a guy that would probably get a job somewhere else as well. So if he had any offset language in his contract, like James Franklin did, we saw that buyout go all the way down from almost $50 million to just $9 million because he signed a new $40+ million contract with Virginia Tech.
He's the fan favorite. They love talking about Stafford, the 38-year-old guy. He's the Super Bowl champ. We got the family. Any opportunity to pump McVay and Stafford as a team, they do that. They love this team. They love Aaron Donald, and rightfully so. Best defensive player, but they love to pump up Stafford.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Duke, you got to look at Cam Boozer. 18 points. The Bruiser, I may call him. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. I know he shot the ball 1 of 4 from 3, but he's showing his ability to really be a different player than his dad. A little bit more dynamic, a little bit more athletic.
College Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ashton Genty has been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than any player in the National Football League.
Yep.
So you just gave him the ball in the end zone. Do the math. How's that going to work out?
It's like what I
He
said
got
earlier.
hit behind the line of scrimmage. He got tackled in the end zone.
Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. But the thing
No
is,
surprise.
Brady, you draft offensive linemen before you draft a star running back. Like they went backwards.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Hurts won't be, even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just Baseball Show exclusively here on SportsGrid, coming your way in about 28 minutes from now. One of the hosts of the show is Peter Apple, joins us, courtesy of Just Baseball, to go over the latest in the offseason. And Peter, welcome back to the show as we got this hot stove that's yet to percolate, which, honestly, in this day and age in baseball usually doesn't happen until 2026, like the next year. Everyone wants to make up stories like it's about to happen and, it should happen by the winter meetings. Nobody really knows the answer to this. But what we do have is a couple of trades to discuss, which we didn't see coming. So at least that gives us some fun content. Let's start off with the freshest one, the one today, where former Red Sox general manager Chaim Bloom, now running the show in St. Louis, seemingly headed towards somewhat of a rebuild, I think it's fair to say, sheds Sonny Gray, some of his salary, and gets a couple of prospects that he was familiar with his time in Boston. So it does make a ton of sense there. The Red Sox are in win now mode. The Cardinals are in we'll wait and see kind of mode. And then the key figure here is obviously Cardinals having to pay to say goodbye to Sonny Gray. It's being reported $20 million going to Boston. So, I think that's the direction the Cardinals are headed right now. And Chaim Bloom did this with Boston a little bit. He's doing it now with St. Louis and had a lot of success with the Red Sox, too. I think unfairly let go at the time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. But I think this trade makes a lot of sense for both sides. The Red Sox, they came out this offseason and they said, we are in the market for a true number 2 starter. And when Sonny Gray got traded to them about 2 hours ago, I think initial reactions were, is this really the number 2 that we're looking for? I think so. When you look at Sonny Gray and you look at a 4.28 ERA from last season, I understand the reaction. But if you look under the hood, Sonny Gray had some of the best underlying metrics in Major League Baseball. 2 areas that he really excels in is striking out the world and limiting the walks. That's why, these ERA predictors like FIP and Sierra and XFIP and all these fancy stats that baseball nerds like myself look at. He strikes everybody out and he doesn't walk anybody. Over the last 2 seasons, Sonny Gray is one of 3 pitchers with at least 400 strikeouts and just 80 walks or less, joining Tarek Skubal and Garrett Crochet. So I think this is a great get for the Red Sox. But on the other side, you have to be happy with the prospect return to the Cardinals. Brandon Clark is right outside Aram, who you'll hear again on the Just Baseball show in about, 26 minutes, right outside the top 10 prospects. But the Red Sox have a really solid system. Last season, 60 strikeouts in just 38 innings, left-handed pitching prospect, really good stuff. And then you have Richard Fitz on the other side, who's a 25-year-old, profiles as more of a back-end starter. But for $20 million, I think it's fair in order to bring those arms in with years of control.
Yeah, good stuff, I think, as you said, for both sides. The more interesting deal, I think, happened a couple of days ago where Brandon Nimmo, who was a fan favorite and a Met favorite for a number of years, he spent his whole career in New York, got the extension and a no-trade clause, had to get talked into going to the Texas Rangers. And in return, the Mets composition changes as they get Marcus Semien here. And I know that there's some, certainly money involved here, but it did feel simply like a baseball trade where both teams were trying to change the dynamic of the team. Did you like one side better than the other in this deal?
I know I just said about the Cardinals and the Red Sox where I thought it was a win-win, but I also think this is a win-win when you look at what both teams need right now. The Mets going into the offseason, just like Breslow said with the Red Sox, they need a number 2. Dave Stearns came out and said, we need to get better defensively. And I understand why. The Mets, by outs above average, were a bottom 10 defensive team in Major League Baseball. And Brandon Nimmo, while he is a solid bat, is not necessarily the solution defensively. You know who is? Marcus Semien. And when you compare these two players, you look at all the offensive statistics. Brandon Nimmo, clearly the better bat at this point in his career. But over the last 2 seasons, Marcus Semien has a higher WAR. How could that be possible with a guy with an OPS below 700? Is because he's still playing elite defense. So what the Mets get is an elite up-the-middle duo defensively with Francisco Lindor and Marcus Semien, and they also save $30 million in the process. So they could go back out to the corner outfield market, maybe go get a Cody Bellinger, maybe go all in for Kyle Tucker, maybe keep attacking the trade market, because on our top 100 prospects, they have 8 top 100 guys, leads all teams. So they can potentially go get a Tatis. I don't know if that's actually happening, but they can be they can be malleable in the market. Well, on the Rangers side, it's pretty easy. You get the better bat, he's younger, and with the way their contracts are laid out, they actually save $5.5 million over the next 2 years because Semien's is more backloaded while Brandon Nimmo is a longer-term deal, just a lower AAV. So Rangers get better offensively, Mets get better defensively, and save some money in the process. Again, I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, and Peter, let's not stop there with the Texas Rangers because, again, a new manager, new team composition, obviously incoming here because not only is Marcus Semien gone, but so is Adolis Garcia, who was non-tendered by the Texas Rangers, along with Jonah Heim. We had heard a rumor a couple weeks ago, maybe they were trying to trade these players. Obviously couldn't get anything in return, so they get non-tendered. Former first-round pick J.J. Bleday by the A's gets let go. He'll get scooped up quick. Evan Phillips, once upon a time, was like the main Dodgers closer, and injuries and other things have set him back. I'm sure he'll get a new deal. And then Christopher Morel with a big bat, shopped around a little bit, also let go as well. So let's start off with Garcia here, who was one of the World Series heroes for the Rangers a couple of years ago, and certainly hasn't had that much success since then. But credit to the Rangers organization for finding him. Did they wait too long though to sort of sell high on the player here? It sort of feels like that, unfortunately.
It feels like that, but I also don't necessarily blame them because how could they have known? This guy was a World Series hero back in 2023, and he was known for the prolific power and his defense. What happens over the next 2 years? Both of them just drop off a cliff. It's hard getting off that World Series high and say, you know what, we're going to trade one of our heroes because we project he's going to fall off a cliff. It's kind of impossible. So Adolis Garcia put the Rangers in a really tough position because I think, and I hope you agree, that the Rangers were clearly trying to shop him to anyone that would potentially take him, but they probably surveyed the market and said, well, an aging guy whose best qualities in the past were power and defense, both of those have fallen off. We're not going to be able to do much with him, so they had to non-tender him. I think, again, if you're a Rangers fan, you're fine with it. You got a World Series out of it.
J.J. Bleday, let's hit on him real quick. He'll get picked up. I'm sure some team will like some of the things that they saw. Of course, the Marlins drafted him high. He was traded to the A's, and he had some bright moments here. But why do you think the A's decided to give up on Bleday?
It's interesting because last year, or at least in 2024, really solid player, looked emerging as one of the better young center fielders in baseball. But then this previous season just dropped off the face of the earth. OPS in the mid 600s. Even the defense really fell off. In terms of outs above average, was one of the worst defensive center fielders. And again, the year before was kind of his only serviceable year. So I think the A's are in the bucket. Well, we don't really want to pay this guy when he's only had one really good season.
Yeah, it does make sense there. Peter, I think we have so much more to cover here on the show with you. So let's do this. We'll take a quick time out. We'll come back and we'll talk about the other potential overseas free agent, where he could end up. And we'll also get Peter's thoughts early on the American League Rookie of the Year and the National League Rookie of the Year as Just Baseball. And the show is coming your way at 1:30 Eastern exclusively here on SportsGrid. And for more on our programming and all the other great things that we have here coming up on the holidays here at NewsWire and SportsGrid, just take out your phone and scan this QR code. It'll get you the SportsGrid app completely free, available for both iOS and Android. And for those of you who are sports bettors for the Thanksgiving Day holiday and you want to track your bets, you could do it inside the app. Just scan that QR code, available for iOS and Android. It is the SportsGrid app, streaming our shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. More baseball discussion with Peter Apple of Just Baseball up next. Don't go away. Eight 3-minute rounds. The gloves are 10 ounces. And Anthony Joshua weighs like 250 pounds. So I'm not really sure how this is going to end up happening. But this is one of those. Normally, I don't give credit to the Paul brothers. And, I give them credit for being great on social media and creating a lot of buzz for the sport. I give him credit for getting in the round with Anthony Joshua. This is not like a Mike Tyson fight when Tyson's 60 years old.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Hurts won't be, even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Let's take a look at a couple of narratives here and play a good game of fade or not fade. And first up, well, the idea that the Chiefs are going to put it all together and win the AFC West, well, that's absolutely gone. Absolute fade from this point on, Donnie, with the Chiefs. Their 10-year reign is over. It's done with.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's bring back Peter Apple of Just Baseball. Show coming your way in 15 minutes. They'll break down everything going on in Major League Baseball. And Peter, a player that I'm not all that familiar with, but then again, I didn't know Roki Sasaki or Yoshinobu Yamamoto either. I guess I got to get familiar with Tatsuya Imai. I hope I'm getting that right. Fantastic pitcher coming from overseas immediately. Strikes down reports that he wants to join all those guys in LA. So, I mean, I guess this has people excited. I'm not sure how legitimate, by the way, this is, because money is money at the end of the day. But this guy has come out and thrown some pretty high barbs here saying that he wants to take down the Dodgers with whatever team that he goes to. I guess if you could buy that, I guess that makes the Giants pretty happy here, right, Peter? Like the Giants seemingly would be like, all right, we can't get anybody else to play here. Maybe this guy will come.
Yeah, 100%. What an interesting quote here to basically say, I don't want to play on a team with other Japanese players, and I want to be the guy to take down the Dodgers. I think if you are a Giants fan, your eyes are bugging out of your head, just like a cartoon, would fall in love with some guy. And they should, because this guy can be a potentially solid number 2 starter. If we look at what he's done in the MPB, it's that similar low slot delivery, which gives that fastball that additional ride up into the zone. But he's also got 3 above average pitches as well. The question with Imai is command. That was his only real issue in the MPB. And of course, it's a different baseball coming over to Major League Baseball. So if he's able to command those 4 pitches in the zone, he can truly reach some of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball. But if he continues to walk 3.5, 4 per 9, he'll likely slide into a number 3 starter where in a playoff series, you'd be comfortable handing him the ball in game 3, but he has the upside to feel really good about handing him the ball in game 2. So I'm looking at you, San Francisco Giants. I'm also looking at you, the New York Yankees. And I also wouldn't be surprised if the Toronto Blue Jays got involved. They've said that they are willing to spend more money. They also should be in the market for a starting pitcher. So those 3 teams, I believe, should be the front runners at this point for Tatsuya Imai.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to catching this guy pitch. And of course, a lot of success for these pitchers from overseas in the first year of pitching, usually in Major League Baseball. Then things get a little dicey. Okay, so we thought we would take a look, Peter, because you guys are so caught up here on prospects and players that we're going to see next year on the Rookie of the Year. These are odds that are posted courtesy of DraftKings. Believe it or not, they have these out already in November. So I want to ask you about everybody beyond Trey Savage, who I think provides the least value to win this award because we're coming off recency bias of watching him pitch, of course, in the World Series. Kevin McCongle is plus 550. He was very impressive, I know, in the Arizona Fall League. Sam Basayo, who can play right now for the Orioles and did a little bit last year. Connolly Early, Chase Lauder, Carter Jensen. So, there's 2 or 3 names here I think the common folks out there watching may not be familiar with at all. I know from an odds perspective, Peter, what I wouldn't do is just bet the favorite here because this is what we're coming off the most recent watching. Not to say that E. Savage can't be great, because he can be, but such a short sample of what we saw in the World Series.
Yeah, first off, I am limiting all pitchers if I'm choosing a Rookie of the Year award winner. We just saw it in the National League in the battle between Cade Horton and Drake Baldwin. Cade Horton didn't get exactly the number of innings that the voters wanted to, even though he pitched to an ERA below 3, and they gave it to Drake Baldwin. Normally in a tie goes to the hitter. We even saw it a few years ago between Spencer Strider and Michael Harris. It's also just harder for these pitchers to stay consistently healthy and reach, their maximum. So Trey Savage, I think he can be a good pitcher, but that's not who I'm looking at. I'm actually looking at the bottom of that graphic, Carter Jensen. Jensen has prolific power. It might not show up in terms of 40 home runs, but it shows up in the exit velocity department when it comes to potentially 20 to 25 home runs, but potentially 25 to 30 doubles. But he's not a boom or bust type power hitter like we've seen in the past. He's proven that he can limit the strikeouts while also getting on base at a really sizable clip. Look at just the small segment of games he had last year with the Royals. Once he came up, he was one of the better hitters on their team. And it will be interesting to see what the Royals do because, of course, they still have Salvador Perez. Is it going to be Jensen as their starting catcher on opening day? Or is it going to be Salvador Perez with Jensen playing in the DH spot? So reason I like Jensen is because the bat is super, super loud, but also there's a clear lane for playing time here with the Royals where they want to see what they get out of this young catcher. At those odds, I think you should be much closer to the favorite because when you look at each guy above him, it's either a pitcher or it's a bat where we don't know exactly what the time will look like. Still love Samuel Basayo, but Jensen has better value.
And Peter, in the National League, it's a little bit more up in the air, I would say. So Nolan McLean, I guess you wouldn't be in on that because, again, he's a pitcher. on the Mets. But beyond that, Sal Stewart, pretty impressive at the end of the season with what we saw. I guess the question is, does he fall in line with all of these other impressive for a short period of time with the Reds guys? McClain and so many other Reds come up, they do well, and then you just don't know what to expect in the future. JJ Weatherholt, man, I mean, what noise did this guy make at the end of last season? Former first-round pick of the Cardinals not that long ago, kind of like that at 7-1. When you look at those names on the list, does anybody pop out to you?
JJ Weatherholt certainly pops out. The only way I wouldn't bet on him is if he doesn't start on opening day for the Cardinals, but that bat is going to play. But I actually want to mention a guy that isn't even on that graphic. His name is Carson Bench of the New York Mets. The Mets are in need of a center fielder, and everybody says, well, they'll go out and sign one. But one of their top prospects in their organization is Carson Bench, who plays center field. Had a great year in the minor leagues, just continues to get better. And if you look at our prospect rankings on justbaseball.com, you'll notice that all of the grades for him are above average power, speed, plate discipline, arm in center field, just a really good baseball player. And if you're the starting center fielder for the Mets and you're having a good season, voters are going to notice.
Peter, what's coming up on the show here in about 10 minutes?
Arm and Jack are coming on, and they're talking Marcus Semien trade. They're talking about a lot of things that, we just discussed, except you're getting kind of a different perspective there. And they are much better even than me at breaking down all of the prospects. So definitely check out that show coming up.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Thanks for coming on.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Thanks, Greg.
All right. We'll wrap up the show right after this. Don't go away. Minute rounds. The gloves are 10 ounces, and Anthony Joshua weighs like 250 pounds, so I'm not really sure how this is going to end up happening, but this is one of those. Normally I don't give credit to the Paul brothers, and I give them credit for being great on social media and creating a lot of buzz for the sport. I give him credit for getting in the round with Anthony Joshua. This is not like a Mike Tyson fight when Tyson's 60 years old.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Hurts won't be, even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Let's take a look at a couple of narratives here and play a good game of fade or not fade. And first up, well, the idea that the Chiefs are going to put it all together and win the AFC West, well, that's absolutely gone. Absolute fade from this point on, Donnie, with the Chiefs. Their 10-year reign is over. It's done with.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. The Saints, in looking for a new kicker, actually brought in former Ravens kicker Justin Tucker, who was suspended for the first 10 games this season. They did not sign him. They opted to sign Cade York. So York will be the Saints' new kicker, not Justin Tucker. That made some news yesterday. And, of course, the Saints played the Miami Dolphins this week. All right, let's wrap up the show with some news on the World Baseball Classic. Also, an update at Tennessee needing a new pet, a new mascot, and also, in case you missed it last night, not the best look for a player on the Carolina Panthers taking out Jawan Jennings. Time now for some last licks. Before we get to the Major League Baseball season, World Baseball Classic season will be here before you know it. This was supremely popular 4 years ago. It's coming back again this March. And to nobody's surprise, the WBC is bringing in all the stars yet again. Guess who's playing for Japan? The team that won the last World Baseball Classic, by the way, in the final out of the ninth inning, an incredible game. I was there in Miami. It'll be Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani will be playing for Team Japan. Not a big surprise here, as Ohtani was on the mound striking out Mike Trout, if I'm not mistaken, in that game of the World Baseball Classic. Yeah, I think I saw that in person. Yeah, that's right. They were both with the Angels. So guess who? Shohei Ohtani is back. This is going to be a wonderful event. Can't wait for that. That's coming up, by the way. We got a long time until then, until 2026. Okay, University of Tennessee Volunteers are looking for a new pet mascot. Smokey the 11th is immediately retiring from official mascot duties, University of Tennessee announced. He had been in training the last 2 years, but just for some reason they've decided to retire him. If I'm not mistaken, the next mascot is also named Smokey, as you would imagine, Smokey the 12th, related to, also in the family. I love these things when they happen, and watching the dogs run out on the field and then picking up the ball or picking up flags or whatever it is. Really cool to see. And congratulations on a long career for Smokey the 11th, immediately retiring from mascot duties at the University of Tennessee. Always fun to have pets on the field. I think that everybody would agree. Nothing like a good pet. Hold on a second, folks. Wouldn't you know, just lost everything. Had a total malfunction here in my office here. That's a good way to end the show. Okay. One more thing before we go. Crazy. Jawan Jennings. Did you catch Jawan Jennings over the weekend? Well, he played on Monday Night Football, and there's a player named Trevon Moehrig who went after him. And by after him, meaning he punched him in the spot that you never want to be punched. Here's Kyle Shanahan and Moehrig on that.
Yeah, the guy took a cheap shot and hit him in the balls, and I was real proud of Jawan for not losing his mind out there and getting him to the sideline.
So it got a little chippy there at the end, Jawan. Were you just very competitive in that moment at the end of the game?
Man, TV gonna tell you what happened, man. I was just responding to me some childish behavior. That's all it was.
Kyle said it was a cheap shot, and he was proud of you for not retaliating, like in the moment. How did you kind of stop yourself from retaliating?
Well, you know, we talk about all the time how small this window is for us, and so, you know, being 7-rounder, come off, I don't want to make any mistakes. You know, I'm trying to go out there and play the hardest I can, and, you know, I like the rest to help me out when they can.
No word on how long the suspension will be for this player on the Panthers, but my guess is he's going to get one. The last thing that you want to do is punch somebody in the you-know-what, but that's what ended up happening yesterday, and certainly nobody's happy about this, but 49ers in the end did get the win, and they will head up until this week and certainly waiting to see what this suspension ends up holding for this player on the Panthers. All right, well, what a way to end the show today. Didn't necessarily expect all my cabinets and everything here that I have in my office to collapse on me to end the show, but we made it through right to the end. I don't know how we would have done this other way. Thanks to our guests here on the program, Bill Bender, Joe Pisapia, Danny Burke, and Peter Apple. Also, don't forget, on tomorrow's show, Adam Kaufman will be hosting, so make sure you check out that show. And I'll be back with you for our next edition of Fantasy Sports Today on Saturday morning as we get you ready for all of the Sunday action as well. And for those of you watching, I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving out there. Certainly, it's a very big part of everybody's family getting together. Do your best to get along on Thanksgiving Day. And I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy the food, enjoy the football, and everything else. Thanks again to our director, Lou. For my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. We have the Just Baseball Show coming your way in less than 5 minutes from now, and then all the game time decisions and in-game live action that you could ask for coming up later today. I'll see you back here on Saturday for Fantasy Sports Today, and if NewsWire is your favorite show, that's great, because you'll see it back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you then.